Right, guys, when speaking about your Mount Rushmore of MMA, it's hard to leave this next man out of the conversation. UFC and one champ with so many records, one could take up this entire interview reading them out. Most importantly, he did it all with class and respect, setting an example for generations to come. Now, he has one of the best MMA YouTube channels in the game. He returns to Submission Radio here today. Demetrious Mighty Mouse Johnson, welcome back to Submission Radio, bro. It's been so long.
It's been a long time, man. Just been busy grinding. You've been
busy killing it, my friend. You've been busy killing it. And we'll talk about the YouTube channel in a sec. But before we get into it, I got to get your thoughts first up off the bat, man. How about this news? Your old nemesis, your old friend, Horiguchi, making his return to the UFC after a big, run with Ryzen. Obviously, you fought him at UFC 186, which for people out there is almost 10 years ago. Yeah. What was your reaction when you saw that he was making a comeback, man? And he has the title in his eyes. He has the targets on that title.
It's very fascinating when you see a guy like Kyoji Horiguchi leave the UFC to begin with. I believe he was on a 5 or 6 fight win streak, leaves the UFC, goes back to Ryzen, has some good battles there. He loses to Kaya Sakura. He beats Kaya Sakura. And then he loses to Sergio Pettis, gets knocked out by Sergio Pettis again. So he's kind of had like an up and down career. I follow his career because I'm a big fan of him, obviously. But now for the opportunity for him to come back to the UFC, well, one of his main training partners, Alex Pantoja, is the champion. So is he going to go down to 125? Is he going to fight at 135? What is his options? I don't foresee him and Alex Pantoja ever fighting. So that's going to put a big strain on his career. He is getting older. I believe he's like in his, early 30s, maybe mid 30s.
Yeah, he's 34.
He's 34. So Alex Pantoja is going to lose anytime soon. So I think it's a very interesting dynamic of why he's coming back now instead of in the past, where I think now it might be a little interesting because the question is he has a title in his sights, but his main training partner, Alex Pantoja, is the champion, and he trains at American Top Team, where I feel like, how do they make that dynamic work instead of like, I'm excited he's back, but how do you make that dynamic work? It's always been like, you have Adriano Moraes, you have Alex Pantoja, you have Kyoji Horiguchi. Those three are like one of the best flyweights in the world, but they all train together.
It's interesting if they're able to put that aside and figure it out. When you look at these two guys, and you've always said you see him as maybe like the number 2 best guy in the world behind Pantoja, right? Just because you mentioned how Pantoja just had the high-level opponents that he's beaten in the UFC. But if you see these guys coming together, both have knowledge on each other's game, like you said, who do you think wins it?
I think Pantoja does. I think Pantoja could take a shot. Pantoja hasn't been dropped. He hasn't been hurt in all of his, his UFC career from what I've seen. He's had those great battles against him versus Brandon Moreno. And right there, that'll be a great matchup. Kyoji Horiguchi versus Brandon Moreno. I mean, there's matches to be made in the UFC flyweight division without Kyoji Horiguchi ever fighting Alex Pantoja. But if he wants to fight for the belt, he's going to have to fight Pantoja. And I think when it comes down, it's going to be Pantoja. I think Pantoja, he has a hard chin. He has a great grappling. And I think if he's able to get the fights at the ground, he's going to be able to grapple Pantoja.
Obviously, you got Kai in the division. We saw Brendan was able to pick up a win. You got Manel. Do you think Pantoja is going to be the champion for a while, or outside of Horiguchi, do you give someone a shot at potentially taking that belt off him?
Yeah, obviously it's a very stacked division. I think the next opponent for Alex Pantoja is not Kaya Sakura, Kai France. Yep. And I think that's going to be an interesting match because you have a guy who has the power, who's able to sleep anybody in the 125-pound division. It's going to come down to can Kai keep Pantoja off him without the grappling, the clinching, all that stuff. And Pantoja is so good about eating shots and getting across the void, taking his opponents down and out grappling them. So, and then you also have Manel Kape, who looked absolutely phenomenal in his last fight. Amazing footwork, amazing hand speed, great wrestling, defense. That's also another fight that can happen between Alex Pantoja. And then, you have Brandon Royval, who's still there. And then you have Brandon Moreno there. So the flyweight division is very, very tough. It's just about who's going to be able to get out there, stay healthy enough, and execute that game plan against, the most dominant champion in the flyweight division right now, which is Alex Pantoja.
You know, it's crazy, man. For people that don't realize, you're the first UFC flyweight champion. And it's interesting because, like generations shift. We're seeing it in lightweight, in welterweight. Some of the legends are stepping out. Some of the new faces are coming in. When you look back at your division when you were flyweight champion, I feel like, so many superstars in your division, right? So many people trying to get that belt couldn't really beat you. How do you compare the top 10 back when you were the champ to the top 10 now? What kind of differences do you see in the guys right now in the division up to the top compared to when you were the champ?
My personal opinion, I feel like there was more. I don't want to say personality, but kind of. You had John Dodson, who was the magician. You had Joseph Benavidez, who was the beefcake, big thighs. Everybody,
Yeah.
Team Alpha Male. And then you had Hiroshi Cejudo, the messenger, the Olympic gold medalist. I mean, even though he's still there, but he's not at 125. Then you had Kyoji Horiguchi, the blitzer, one of the best athletes to come out of Japan. Then you also had, you had Ali Bakatinov, the Sambo world champion. I mean, you had a lot of great guys in there. I mean, and that's only a couple that I'm, mentioning. Chris Curiaso, he was great. He had great active guard. He doesn't get a lot of appreciation. I mean, he was on a 3 or 4 fight win streak in the flyweight division. You also had Dustin Ortiz. I mean, there's a lot of great guys, and there is a lot of great guys now in the division, but they don't have that recognizable name, like the people in my division back in my day. I'm fucking dating myself like I'm old, but that's how I feel, right? When I look at it, you have, Starboy Mino Cop, you have Alex Pantoja, you have Steve Ercik who gave, Alex Pantoja a good run for his money, but now he's on an 0-3 losing streak. So
Yeah.
I feel like it's a very interesting time.
It's fascinating because you're so technical. You can break everyone down. I love when you break down Pantoja, like he does this well, he does that well. And obviously you mentioned like you're never coming back. You're not using your body for money. I have to, I have to sleep with multiple people every single night just to make ends meet, Demetrious. So I'm not in the same position as you, brother. But let me ask you this. When you think about, you as champ back then and Pantoja now, do you ever think about how those styles clash, how you guys would match up, how that fight would look?
Yeah, I mean, I think it would be an exciting fight. I mean, the biggest thing that Pantoja does very well is that he's very, very durable, and he is very relentless in, getting across the void, getting his arms on somebody, out grappling them. I feel like that's his strongest ability is to out grapple people and out scramble people. Obviously when he fights Brandon Moreno, you can see a little, chinks in his armor because of, I would say, Brandon Moreno's athleticism and Brandon Moreno's, technical ability of outboxing him and being quick on his feet. But, I think with Alex Pantoja, he's so good about being durable, tough. He ate some good shots from Kaya Sakura. And I think for me, it would have to be, I can't let him on my back, can't let him get a body triangle, which I've been put in before. And then I got to make sure I stick a move, fight him in a clinch, out cardio him. And, it'll be a very, very tough fight.
Isn't it funny? I remember when you used to come on the show and, we were talking about how like the UFC didn't want to pay you, the $1 million to have the big fight. And now people are like, we need Demetrious Johnson back. Like everyone's trying to get you back. But now you're at this point where you're like, I don't do this. I didn't really have that much interest in this anyway. Isn't it funny how things change? Right?
Oh yeah. People don't appreciate you until you're gone and they don't realize what they have. Right, like as me as a champion, but they got a great champion right now. Like I said, Alex Pantoja, he's very active. He's very, very humble. He has a lot of humility, and I'm a big fan of him. And I think for me, I'm glad I'm in this position right now where I don't have to take a fight in order to make ends meet. I'm building the YouTube channel. We got the Mighty Journey, we got the Mighty Cast, we got the breakdowns, final predictions, the instant reactions. All that stuff is going great. And there's no point to come back. I mean, I'm 38. I'll be 39 this year. I'm really enjoying my time in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And now it's just focusing on keep on building the brand. That way, in 5 or 10 years, people are like, God damn, that motherfucker still can move good.
Dude, you're doing so good. Your YouTube channel is absolutely killing it. You were talking to a friend of mine and Dan Hooker recently in a great conversation. You have this great way to bring out people's personalities and really have great conversations. People that haven't checked it out, please go subscribe to Demetrious's channel. It's in the description link below. I've tagged it so you guys can subscribe now. But I got to ask you about this 155 division, dude, because this thing is gridlocked, man, right? We've got Islam. He's waiting to see who he's fighting next. We've got Justin, Charles, Armin, Ilia, Dan Hooker, Dustin Poirier, Max, Paddy Pimblett if he beats Chandler. If it was up to you, let's just have a little bit of fun. Who would you give Islam Makhachev the next title shot out of these guys?
You know what? I would wait. I'll put Islam Makhachev on ice and see what happens in this 170-pound division with Jack Mandela versus Bilal Muhammad. If Jack is able to get past Bilal Muhammad, I think you give Islam Makhachev the opportunity to go up to be a double champ. I know Dana White said he doesn't want to have to do this again, but when you look at the 155-pound division, Islam has pretty much cleared that out, and he's waiting for a new contender. You know, you have the fight against Charles Oliveira, Armin Tsarukyan. You also have, you know, the newcomer Ilia Topuria. So I would like to see Islam with the opportunity to fight for that 130-pound belt. Let's say Bilal Muhammad keeps it, beats Jack Mandela. Then I think you have to do, you know, you can do the rematch between Charles versus Islam and have Armin Tsarukyan fight Ilia Topuria. You also still have Dustin Poirier there. You have Max Holloway's there now. You have Paddy Pimblett. I mean, there's so many different, you know, fights you can make in the 155-pound division. But I think the biggest thing that's on the radar right now is Ilia Topuria coming to 155, changing his name to the Legend. And I would like to see him be tested at 155. I know a lot of people think he should get an immediate title shot, but I think, you know, why not just have him versus Armin Tsarukyan run it, right? Like, you know, that'll be a great fight. Armin Tsarukyan was the next person to get the title shot, but he got injured. And so the UFC said they want to see him prove himself, you know, at 155 before he gets that title shot. Here's a perfect example. Armin Tsarukyan versus Ilia Topuria. Let them run it. And then if you want to keep Islam Makhachev busy, you give him Charles Oliveira, or you can give him somebody else they see fit who can fight for the championship.
It's a great point, man. And you have an excellent video of you training with Team Khabib. For people that haven't checked it out, go check it out. It's hilarious and it's fun. Ilya saying that he wants to beat Islam in the area that he's strongest in, right? He wants to go in there. He wants to wrestle him. He wants to submit him. You've been behind the curtain, though. You've seen how these guys work. Be honest with me. From what you've seen in the training room, is that even a possibility for Ilya, in your opinion?
You know, we haven't really seen Ilya off his back or submitting people left to right, but I know he's a very good wrestler. He has some good grappling. You know, we haven't seen Ilya fight anybody off, put people on their back, pass their guard. I mean, he does pass guard, but he tends to go about his fights by knocking people out, right? And I believe that's what he's going to try to do when he fights Islam, where Islam has proven his time and time again of submitting the best of the best black belts in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, who've submitted other people in the division. So I think that is not going to be the route that Ilia Topuria goes when he fights Islam Makhachev. But, you know, you never know. We'll have to wait and see when those guys link up and see what route Ilia Topuria takes to try to beat Islam Makhachev.
Like being in the training room with Islam and seeing what you see, and even Team Khabib, do you think there's anybody in the UFC that can beat him when it comes to that part of his game?
The grappling?
From the grappling, yeah. From seeing what you've seen.
Yeah, I think anybody can be beaten, you know. When it comes down to actually like fighting, there's a lot of stuff that goes in it. Is an athlete injured? Is an athlete overtrained? How is his conditioning? You know, all those things seem to be a factor. And, you know, I think him and Armin Tsarukyan, they were having some back and forth in the grappling exchange. And, you know, obviously Islam beat him. So I for what I see, he's a very hard worker, very dedicated, very strategic. You know, he has Habib working with them and all the rest of the amazing team in Eagle MMA. So I think it's just going to be down to, you know, who's going to be able to execute their game plan. That's what I feel like anybody can be beaten any given day. It's just about who shows up and who's able to execute and who's on fire that night.
Dude, that's so fascinating. You know, hearing your mindset on it. Obviously, you're one of the GOATs. You're one of the Mount Rushmore guys. And hearing you say that, it just explains why you're the best. You know, you believing that you could beat anyone, knowing that with the right game plan, you can do it. Let me ask you this. Let's say he goes up, becomes a welterweight champion, defends the lightweight belt, defends the welterweight belt. How much more do you think Islam has to do before he becomes a part of this Mount Rushmore discussion, along with yourself and John Jones and GSP? How much more do you think Islam needs to do before people start talking about him in that discussion?
I already feel like he's already there. He's done a lot in the lightweight division. And I think for him to go up to 170, and even if he doesn't go up to 170, let's say he stays at
Yeah.
155, he beats Armin Shuriken, and then he beats up Ilia Topuria. I don't think there's nothing left for him to do in the 155-pound division. I think he can retire right off in the sunset, which I feel like he will do eventually. And then if he goes up to 170, he beats, Jack Mandela, or whoever the 170-pound division is, then I just don't see him. He doesn't need to do much left, my opinion. But at the same time, it's all predicated on what the public sees or what the public views him as, right? Habib is on Mount Rushmore, and I don't think he never had the opportunity to go up 170 to do that, and if Islam's able to do that, so I mean, it's all based on perception of what people think.
Just quickly, you had a great chat with Alex Volkanovski as well. Miami's coming up. He's a great champion down from this region. Obviously, we know age is always a factor. We know, taking damage in fights can sometimes change fighters, but he's looking great in camp, freestyle MMA. He looked very confident and ready in your discussion on your YouTube channel. Do you think that Alex Volkanovski could come back in Miami, beat Diego Lopez here and have a second run? What's your feel on this fight?
Yeah, I think me and Alex Volkanovski are on the same page. He's very intelligent. He lives in reality, and he understands that people have to catch him. They have to catch him. He's short for the division. He moves very good, very well. Not good. He moves very well. Great strategist, very high IQ. He understands, like when I talked to him about the Chad Mendes fight, he knew he was going to take some bumps and bruises, be able to get back to his feet and keep pushing the pace against Chad Mendes. And when I look at this fight against Diego Lopez, a very, very tough athlete, very good grappler, quick hands, very intelligent as well. He understands what he's doing when it comes to, the striking department. And the biggest thing is that Alex Volkanovski is older. He is coming off of, a 3-fight losing streak. He has been knocked out back to back against Islam Makhachev and Ilia Topuria, and he knows that. He's realized that. So now he's going to make sure he goes out there and fights the perfect fight. Don't get touched. Don't get dropped, because as we get older, our bodies can't take the same type of shots that we could when we're 25, 28, 29, 32 years old, where he is on the upper echelon. So it's going to be a very, very tough fight. And I'm excited to see if Alex Volkanovski can get that belt back. And, we're all going to be sitting there at the edge of our seat to see what happens between these two athletes.
The UFC 314, could be really heartbreaking for fans, right? Like there's a lot of there's a lot of legends fighting. There's a lot of new people stepping in. It's kind of like a passing of the torch, but it's the best card the UFC has done in so long. So it's going to be really interesting. I got some fan questions for you before I let you go, but before I jump to those, just quickly, looks like Aspinall and Jones might happen. It's looking kind of likely. I think it might happen. I don't know if it's going to happen, but if it does happen, what's your feel on this fight right now as it stands? John Jones was looking in shape at DBX. He had his head shaved. He looked like he's been training. He won 6 months. We're looking at November, December, it seems like. But if this fight does go down right now, what's your feel? Do you think Tom Aspinall can do what many couldn't do, minus Matt Hamill in that DQ, and beat John Jones?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think the biggest thing that what makes John Jones so great is, one, how intelligent he is and how versatile he is. I do believe him going up to heavyweight, he's not as fast as he was when he was at light heavyweight, because he has all that extra weight on him. That's how I feel. He's not pop. He's not, he's not as quick. And I think with Tom Aspinall being the younger athlete, faster, bigger, maybe, like I feel that John Jones is the perfect light heavyweight. Where I feel like Tom Aspinall is a big heavyweight. And the 6 months, I'm not the biggest fan of him winning 6 months. If I was Tom Aspinall, I'd be like, God, dude, like, I'm not fucking waiting 6 months. Like, y'all need to give me another fight. But then again, this could be the biggest fight of his career if he's able to beat John Jones. So, I have mixed feelings on the 6 months. You know what I mean? I think that Tom Aspinall should take another fight, because I think when you put an athlete who's very young like that on ice, and they don't get that ring time, they don't get that opportunity to get out there and just fight and make the money, I think it's a little bit different. If I was Tom Aspinall, I'll say, okay, John Jones won 6 months. I'm going to pass on that fight. I'm going to fight somebody else. I'll defend interim light heavyweight, the interim heavyweight championship. And then when John Jones, it's like everybody's fighting on Tom Jones. Everybody's fighting on John
Tom
Jones.
Jones.
Tom Jones.
The sex bomb.
Yeah, everybody's fighting on John Jones's timeline. Where if I was Tom Aspinall, I wouldn't fight on John Jones' timeline. He's dictating what's going on right now and when that fight's going to happen. If I was Tom Aspinall, I'm like, nah, I'm not waiting 6 months. Like, I'm not going to do that. Like the last time Tom Aspinall, I can't remember the last time Tom Aspinall fought. Literally alone, I can't remember the last time. When did John Jones fight? Was that last year, November?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, so that's a long time. That is a long time. You know, and the fight hasn't even been signed. So is it 6 months when they finally sign the fight, or is it 6 months from now? What is it? Like it's being prolonged so long that if it never, it's almost like a movie that we're all excited about that might never ever come out.
Do you think a part of the legacy that people don't realize is John Jones being able to secure the bag here with the UFC? Because like, you know, firsthand how hard it is to try and squeeze $1 out of the UFC, right? They're like one of the tightest organizations here. If he does get this increased amount that he's asking for, money that people outside of Conor McGregor don't really see, do you think behind the scenes that's impressive that he's actually able to get the UFC to do this?
Yeah, I think so. I think so. You know, I always say this. I think the UFC doesn't need any athletes. The reason why I say this, I think the brand is so big that you're going to have your everyday casual, fan base tune in to watch it. So if the John Jones versus Tom Aspinall fight never happens, it's not like the UFC is going to report earnings, but TKO, misses on earnings, blah, blah, blah. And the company's still going to keep on making money. They have so many different, ways to make revenue. So, but if John Jones is able to secure the bag, which I believe he will, it would definitely be impressive.
All right, guys, I just want to take a quick moment to talk about our sponsors, MANSCAPED and SAILY, and a big thank you to them for making it possible for me to bring this show to you. The Beard and Balls bundle from MANSCAPED is the place to go. It's your all-in-one grooming solution to keep you polished from head to toe, more precisely from beard to balls. It's got all-in-one grooming. The Beard Hedger is your go-to for precise beard trimming, and the Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra takes care of everything below the waist. Because confidence starts with the right tools. You got customizable trimming, a dual blade system on the Lawnmower 5.0, which features interchangeable foil and trimmer blades, ensuring a smooth and comfortable experience, even in the sensitive areas. And what about this? The long-lasting power. Enjoy up to 60 minutes of runtime with a Beard Hedger and 75 minutes with the Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra. And by the way, it is risk-free. That's right, guys. Manscaped is now risk-free. Get it on Manscaped's 30-day money-back guarantee. You can try the Beard and Balls bundle today, completely risk-free, with Manscaped's 30-day money-back guarantee. And that's not all. If you want to support this program, use the code word submission. You get 20% off and free shipping right now. That's 20% off and free shipping right now across the whole Manscaped website. I just want to thank Manscaped again for making it possible for me to bring this interview to you. Go to manscaped.com right now, get the Beard and Balls bundle, and get 20% off and free shipping right now with the code word submission. And for anybody looking to travel out there is no better eSIM than SAILY. SAILY has you sorted with its 115 virtual locations, super fast speeds, security features, and what about the fact that you guys get an ad blocker in the app as well, so you don't have to watch annoying ads and use up your data when you watch stuff all over your phone. What about the fact that you don't need to switch out your eSIMs because you can just use the one SAILY profile for everywhere you go? No more lining up at airports, no more having to take out SIM cards from your phone, putting new SIM cards in. SAILY gives you all of the options to get as much data for as long as you need. You got weekly plans, you got plans that last half a year. And SAILY always lets you know when you're about to run out of data. It gives you a little notification when you used up 80% of your plan, so you'll always have time to top up. No more sneaky roaming fees. No more being stressed out about, I just bought this plan in this weird country that's going to last me for 3 months, but I only need it for 3 days. SAILY has you sorted. And if you're a Submission Radio fan, you can click on saily.com/submission now and get 15% off your first purchase. or go to SAILY.com and use the code word submission. Support this show and have the best traveling experience thanks to SAILY. Just a quick reminder while you're watching this interview, please take a moment to subscribe to this channel. Only 48% of you guys are subscribed. The ones that watch regularly, that really helps. And please click the little bell icon so you get notified when the shows come out. That's going to really help me bring out more content to you, more interviews, and keep the channel around for longer. And now, back to the program. A couple of quick fan questions before I let you go, and I appreciate your time, man. First question here from Burst Cornell. He wants to know, what was your Mount Rushmore of video game characters? Do you have one?
Fighting game characters?
Yeah.
Put that up there again. I read a little bit of it, but I want to make sure I read the whole thing. I asked
what is your Mount Rushmore of video game fighting characters? Don't worry about the Pantoja question. I don't know what he's talking about. Yeah.
yeah. You know, yeah, absolutely. Fighting game characters. I mean, you got to put Ryu up there. Ryu has been one of the long-lasting characters of all times when it comes to fighting games. And then after that, I have to put Dmitry Maximov from Darkstalkers. I think him, you know, the vampire style is pretty legit. And then after that, you're gonna put Chun-Li up there. She's been one of the staples in, you know, video game fighting history. And then
she's the go-to character for people who don't know how to play games.
And then you also have you know, let's jump into Tekken. I think you have to go with Kazuya. You know, Kazuya Mishimiya. He's pretty legit as well. Been in the, you know, Tekken series for one of the longest. That's what I'll get for the, you know, Mount Rushmore of the fighting game characters.
Dude, very solid Mount Rushmore. Very well done. Question here. Don't worry about the first part because we already spoke about it. But who do you think is a current 125er or someone out there who you think would be a tough challenge for you in your prime? And I guess let's take Pantoja out of this because he's the champion. Is there anyone that you watch and you're like, hey, this guy could have been a great contender or a challenge for me when I was with the organization, or maybe even at one? Doesn't have to be in the UFC.
Yeah, I think all the athletes. You know, I can't just pinpoint one person just because every single athlete presents a different problem that I would have to figure out and be a strategist about how I approach that fight. You know, one of the things I'm very good at when I fight is be able to take people out of their comfort zone and create chaos and be ahead in the fight than they are. So every single person that I've always watched has always presented a problem that I would love to, like, that I've always tried to figure it out and then to fight them.
I love the way you look at it, man. Final question here. Who does DJ think is the most exciting fighter right now? Is there someone that you watch in any division out there that you're like, whoa, man, this guy above the rest, this guy's the most exciting for me?
I mean, there's so many of them. You know, right now, I feel like I'm really high on the 155-pound division with Ilia Topuria, Islam Makhachev, Charles Oliveira, Armin Shurikian. You know, that division right now is probably the best division. You got Patty Pimlin in there too. That one's just on fire. You know, the flyweight division, that's going well. I think there's, you know, Manel Kape's very fun to watch. Alex Pantoja is fun to watch. Kai's fun to watch. I think the biggest thing in that division is, you know, we're waiting to see. You know, you still have Brandon Moreno, who's so good, and you know, him and Alex Pantoja have fought 100 times already. So it's kind of like you haven't had that, you know, fresh blood, I feel like, to get the opportunity to fight for the belt, besides Kai Asakura. 135, you know, I feel like that is kind of being put on ice a little bit just because Merab is so dominant. You have Sean O'Malley. Those two guys are about to fight. You just have that fight between him versus Umar Nurmagomedov, which is a great fight. And then, you know, when you look at 170 is kind of, it's kind of interesting because you still have, you know, Kamaru Usman is still there. He's kind of in the wings waiting. You have Bilal Muhammad. He's about to fight Jack Mandela. It's gonna be a great fight. Then you have 185, which that's kind of interesting because you have you know, DDP. Love him. He's great. But you had the battle between, you know, DDP, what's his name, Sean Strickland, and Izzat Adesanya. So I feel
Hamzat's in there.
Hamzat's in there. So hopefully we get to see that opportunity. You also have RDR who's there now, who's going to be taking on a Bo Nickel. So, but I feel right now 155 is pretty much the hot commodity right now in the UFC. Like that one is like, yeah, I can't wait to see what happens there.
Yeah, no doubt, man. And 205 and heavyweight off a cliff.
Well, I don't think it's off a cliff. I just think there's not as much activity there. I mean, it's almost that it's a stall point, right? Where you have John Jones is holding up I don't want to say he's holding up the division. everybody's waiting for like when they're going to announce that fight between him versus Tom Aspinall. When, like I said, I can't remember the last time Tom Aspinall fought. I just don't remember it. And I feel, in this game of mixed martial arts, it's about putting rubber to the road and getting those fights out there so people can see you fight and perform. And, the light heavyweight division, you have Alex Pereira versus, what's his name, Ankalaev. Those two are supposed to fight again. And, after that, I'm not sure who's next. So, but I think right now 155 is mint.
Yeah. Ankalaev. That's a hard, that's a hard fight. Just he makes everyone look bad when he beats him. It's like one of those things where it's like, not only do you lose, but you don't even look good, like trying to beat him. All right. As we wrap up, man, your YouTube channel is my favorite MMA channel out there. We were talking a little bit about it before we got recording, but so impressed with the work that you've put in there. You and your team, congratulations to you guys. For those that haven't subscribed or want to find out what's coming up, fill us in, man. What can we look out for? Obviously, you've got a bunch of stuff happening that people can be a part of it and get to check you out a little bit more on your personal side of you sort of breaking stuff down or interviewing people. What's coming up that we can look forward to?
Yeah, we got a lot coming up. We got, the instant reaction. We got the, final predictions. We got the breakdowns. And we also have the Mighty Journey. The wife just got done doing all the logistics for, the next one we got coming up. Not going to give any teasers, but I think people are going to be really, really excited about that one. And then we also have the Mighty Cast. We got some great guests in the lineup coming up, not just mixed martial artists, also people who are, that are in the field that I really love, which is gaming. I would love to get some musicians. We have, NFL player coming up soon. So we're just trying to make it, the best channel on YouTube it can be. And I'm very proud of us and everybody but very proud of myself, my wife, and the whole team. And I can't wait for you guys to see what we got coming up next.
Love it, man. Mount Rushmore of MMA now, Mount Rushmore of content creation. Demetrious Johnson, thank you so much for joining me, man. What a great pleasure this was.
Thank you, man. I appreciate you.